You know it. You tell the story. You tell the whole damn world this is Bear territory.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Bud Turner was right. It's another great day to be a Bear. Welcome to Tell the Whole Damn World, the podcast for Golden Bear fans. If you're like us and are unabashedly and unapologetically all about Cal, then you've found the right place. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Reza and as I always like to say, if you're associated with the University of California, you're one of the luckiest people on this planet. Never forget that. It's the 11th week of 2025, and Ahmad Anderson and I have another great one ready to go for you today. In this week's episode, we turn our attention to the Cal baseball program. So for all of you baseball fans out there, you'll enjoy getting to know the head coach of the Cal baseball team, Mike New. Now in his 8th season, Coach New has established a culture of player development that has helped 27 Cal players get drafted and has guided the Golden Bears to 5 winning campaigns in his first 6 full seasons at the helm, throwing out the 2020 season that was cut short by COVID-19. He also has the highest winning percentage as a head baseball coach at Cal since legendary coach George Wolfman, the last Cal coach to win a College World Series. And in our weekly Cal history segment, Leslie Mitchell and I will talk about Jackie Jensen, the greatest two-sport athlete in Cal history, who most notably made his mark as a baseball player. But before we get to all of that, let's take a look at what's going on in the world of Cal sports. There's a lot to cover this week. The number 6 women's gymnastics team closed out the regular season on Sunday with a first-place finish in its senior day meet, posting a 197.675. They finished the regular season with a 24-2 mark, with their only 2 losses coming in the second week of the season to number 1 Oklahoma and number 2 LSU. For the second straight season, the Bears posted a perfect 9-0 record at Haas, where they have not lost a meet since 2020. Co-head coach Elizabeth Crandall Howell surpassed 150 career victories and now boasts a 758 winning percentage, the highest in Cal history. And sensational senior Maya Lazan won her 6th all-around title of the season to wrap up an incredible career at Haas Pavilion. And congratulations to the women's basketball team. For the first time in 6 years, the Golden Bears will be in the NCAA tournament. They're a number 8 seed and will take on number 9 seed Mississippi State on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific at the Galen Center in Los Angeles. In men's basketball, despite a career-high 37 points from Andrei Stojakovic, the Golden Bears narrowly lost to Stanford in the ACC tournament 78-73. The Golden Bears entered the contest having played 6 overtime sessions in a span of only 4 days and were without phenomenal freshman Jeremiah Wilkinson and starting point guard Jovan Blackshear Jr., who were both held out with injuries. But the Bears did beat Virginia Tech the previous day in the first round of the tournament. Stojakovic was named first-team all-tournament after averaging 33 points in the 2 games played. Down in Manhattan Beach, the number 7 beach volleyball team lost to number 8 Florida State and number 12 Texas, but beat number 19 Florida International and swept number 11 LSU. They're now 11-5 overall this season. The Cal softball team beat Georgia Tech 2 times before its 16-game win streak was finally snapped, losing the final game of the series at home to the Yellow Jackets. They're now 22-5 overall, 5-1 in the ACC. In the first ever ACC homestand at Stu Gordon, the Cal baseball team beat Virginia decisively on Friday, all but beat the Cavaliers again on Saturday before the floor fell out in the top of the 9th inning, and lost to Virginia on Sunday. They're now 9-10 on the season, 2-4 in the ACC. And it was another great weekend for Cal tennis. The number 15 men beat both Louisville and Notre Dame to improve to 11-2 overall, 4-2 in the ACC. And the women beat both number 27 Stanford and SMU. They're now 7-4 this season and a perfect 4-0 in the ACC. The number 3 men's swimming and diving team received 20 invitations to the 2025 NCAA championships scheduled for March 26th through the 29th in Federal Way, Washington. The Golden Bears will look to extend their incredible run of 14 consecutive top 2 finishes. And the Cal varsity rugby team beat the Army Black Knights 24-19 on homecoming at Witter Rugby Field. They close out the regular season this Saturday with a contest against St. Mary's. That's a lot of sports, and there's still more I simply don't have the time to cover. Up next, Leslie and I will talk about Jackie Jensen's impressive athletic career. Can you imagine being a 2-time All-American as a baseball player, winning the College World Series, being an All-American as a football player, and taking Cal to the Rose Bowl? I've seen a lot of amazing Cal athletes in my time, but that's some pretty special stuff, and explains why you see his name prominently displayed on the press box every time you enter Stu Gordon Stadium. And after that, standing on deck, patiently waiting for his turn at bat, will be Cal head baseball coach Mike New.
This week in Cal history. As most of you know by now, Leslie Mitchell is a third-generation Cal alum and lifelong Golden Bear fan who does an incredible job writing articles and shining a light on the students, faculty, and alums from our great university who have gone on to do amazing things in the world. You can find her articles on her website, calbearshistory.com, and you can follow her on X, formerly known as Twitter, under the name Cal Bears History. She's wildly popular there with nearly 10,000 followers. We love having Leslie as part of the show and learning more about these wonderful people from the past associated with our university. In keeping with our theme for this episode being about baseball, today we're going to learn more about the Golden Boy, Jackie Jensen, who has to be considered, with apologies to Tony Gonzalez, Cal's greatest two-sport athlete. Welcome again to the show, Leslie.
Well, thank you, Reza. I appreciate that. And I still call it Twitter, so there you go. Yeah, Jackie, I've had this argument with people and said, well, what about Tony Gonzalez? And I guess I look at it, maybe it's not fair, but what did the team as a whole accomplish? And Jackie Jensen was the leader of a team that took Cal to the Rose Bowl and the leader of a team that won the College World Series. So, you know, again, I don't no disparagement to the great Tony Gonzalez, but you know, and it's sort of silly to make those kind of comparisons anyway. They're both great.
They both had tremendous success. I mean, and I guess when you take a look at the Hall of Fame career and Tony Gonzalez being arguably the greatest tight end to ever play professionally, and he got the Cal basketball team to the Sweet 16. So that's pretty good. It's stiff competition, but yeah, I think.
Well, let's not debate it. I mean, I think they're both great.
They're both great. Absolutely.
But turning to Jackie Jensen, I think he's actually kind of a sad case because he could have been even greater in his career, but he was ultimately sort of brought down by his fear of flying, of all things. But we'll get to that. He was born in San Francisco, but he grew up in Oakland, so he's a local guy. Went to Oakland High, where everybody said, "Oh wow, this kid's talented. Football star, baseball star, wrote for the school paper, president of the class, all that stuff." So he looked like he had a real bright future. But then, of course, there was World War II going on. So as soon as he graduated, he was off to the Navy for a couple years. Came back and went to Cal starting in 1946. Not a great year to start at Cal playing football because we were 2-9. It was the one and only year of Coach Frank Wickhorst. At the end of the season, the players signed a petition saying that they were all going to quit football if they didn't fire Coach Wickhorst.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was so bad at the big game and a lot of the students at that point were returning World War II veterans. So they were kind of a rowdy bunch in that respect. And they literally tore up the benches at Memorial Stadium and threw them onto the field. And some of them were lit on fire because the season had been so bad and the big game was so bad. But Jackie Jensen was a bright spot in 1946, his freshman year. The first time he touched the ball, he ran 46 yards on a punt return for a touchdown against Wisconsin. So, he was a talented player.
Well, that kind of reminds me of the first time Russell White touched the football in
That was
Memorial
longer,
Stadium.
as I was there for that one. Yeah, it was
me
101 yards or something.
Oh, just, 99 yard. 99 yard kickoff return for a touchdown against Miami.
So things turned around a little bit in 1947, and I bet you can guess why.
Did it have anything to do with the head coach?
Yeah, we got a new head coach, and his name was Pappy Waldorf. So he took this team that had been 2-9, and they ended up 9-1 in his first year as the coach, which is a pretty good turnaround.
I'll say.
Yes, and unfortunately back then there were no bowl games other than like the Rose Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, and if you like, but for teams going 9-1, if you didn't win your conference, you weren't going to a bowl game. So
no Cheez-It Bowl for that year's team.
No Cheez-It Bowl, which is a tragedy. Yes, so that was his freshman year. Well, that was his freshman season of football. The spring comes around, and he's on the baseball team. It was the very first College World Series was played that year. And this freshman at that point still was a pitcher, and he could hit pretty well too. And Cal made it all the way to the College World Series, which at that point was just 2 teams made it to the World Series, and it was a 2-out-of-3 series played in Kalamazoo, Michigan, of all places. We were playing Yale. And Yale's first baseman is somebody that a lot of people may have heard of. He was the future president of the United States, George H.W. Bush, who, by the way, was held hitless 0-for-7 in the games that were played. In the first game, it was a tight game. It was a close game for a while. We were trailing by, I think, a run. 7th inning, Cal has a couple of guys on. They bring in this pinch hitter, Jackie Jensen, freshman. He gets a hit, ties the game up. We ended up in the 9th inning scoring 11 runs, and the score ended up being 17-4. So it was sort of, seems like a blowout. So Jackie's tying hit isn't quite remembered that dramatically, but still. So then the way the format was, the second day was a doubleheader, the second game being played if necessary. So in the first game, again, Jackie started as the pitcher in that game. Did real well for several innings. At one point, and George W. Bush said this in an interview several years later. He said, we walked the number 8 man to get to the pitcher, and it was Jackie Jensen, and he hit a ball that I think is still rolling around out there in Kalamazoo. So he was remembering that like 50 years later. Funny enough, when Jensen was invited to an event at the White House to honor the anniversary of the first College World Series, this was when Bush was vice president. Somebody asked him what he remembered about Bush in that World Series, and he said, "I don't really remember him."
Nondescript,
Well, he
no
was
big deal.
hitless, so there you go.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so Jensen, he struck him out a couple of times. So that's an
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that really, I think, just is kind of incredible when you think about the athlete that Jackie Jensen was, to not only be the star of the football team, 1,000-yard rusher, was he the first
1,000-yard rusher ever for Cal, right?
Yeah, the first 1,000-yard rusher ever
Which
in
is
Cal
weird.
history.
You think, man, they didn't have the forward pass before, much before the 50s. So what were they doing? But of course, they only played like 8 games a year and that sort of thing.
Right, but like running back by committee maybe or something like that. But so not only was he the running back, he was also a great defensive back. So playing 2 ways, right, from what I understand. And then to also play baseball, be the ace pitcher for the baseball team. And in that season, if I'm not mistaken, he hit 385. I mean, man, it is pretty spectacular. I mean, I cannot imagine this guy, all that he had accomplished there as an athlete and winning the College World Series. And then later on, well, I mean, I'm jumping way ahead, but I'll just throw this out there that he even became the head coach of the Cal baseball team many years later.
Yeah, we'll get there. He was an amazing athlete. He really was. In the 1948 season, Again, another great season. In fact, 1947, we made this big turnaround and gone 9-1. Well, 1948 was even better. We get to the big game. We're 9-0 at the big game. We were supposed to wipe the floor with Stanford, but it ended up being a real nail biter. 7-6 was the final score. But Jackie Jensen ran for 170 yards in that big game, and he kicked a 67-yard punt because he was also our punter. Because what couldn't he do?
Wow.
That made us 10-0, and off we went to the Rose Bowl, where he had a great 56-yard rush for a touchdown against Northwestern to tie it up.
With Northwestern's defensive unit in there now, Sondheim backing up the left side of the line. The ball is handed to Jack Swanner. He's running wide. He's up, touch off left tackle, and Jensen, and he's into the clear. He's down to the 40. He's down to the 30, to 10, and he's over for the touchdown.
Unfortunately, he then went out with an injury shortly thereafter, late in the first half, and Cal did not win the 1949 Rose Bowl.
And I'd have to think that had he been available and hadn't been injured, or that perhaps Cal would have won that game because he was just such a dominant player.
No question we would have won. Yeah. You never know.
But that was the first of 3 Rose Bowls, too, under
yes, it was.
legendary
and the next
coach
two,
Pappy
got us to the Rose Bowl without Jackie Jensen, because Jackie decided to forego his senior year and go pro in baseball with Pappy Waldorf's blessing and encouragement. He signed with the Oakland Oaks, which was the well-known AAA team at that time. Of course, that's before baseball existed on the West Coast, Major League Baseball. So the AAA teams were a big deal. The Yankees wanted him, but he thought he was going to get a better opportunity because the Yankees were going to put him in like a single A level. And he thought if he'd have more opportunity to get to the majors if he signed with a AAA team. So he stayed in Oakland, played there a couple of years, and then the Yankees bought his contract along with Billy Martin's contract. So that's kind of a fun combo. And he played for the Yankees a couple of years. He played briefly in the 1950 World Series, which the Yankees, of course, won. But he was sort of considered initially that he was going to be the successor to Joe DiMaggio for the Yankees. Unfortunately, there was this other kid that came along that the Yankees signed named Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle? Yep.
Yeah, it kind of made him superfluous as a starting outfielder and replacement for DiMaggio. So he got traded to the Washington Senators, did very well there for a couple of years, but then got traded to the Red Sox, and that's where he really made his mark. He was with the Red Sox, I forget how many years, eight years, I think. He was a great hitter. He was a great outfielder. He was playing with the likes of Ted Williams and Jimmy Pearsall in the outfield with him. It was considered the best outfield in baseball. And he won the MVP of the American League in 1958 with I got the stat here so I could get it right. He batted .286, 35 home runs, and 122 RBIs, which led the American League, which isn't too shabby.
And then, as I understand it, he actually won that honor despite the Red Sox being in third place, I think, in the division, which I think is, just pretty telling, because usually those kinds of awards go to teams that are in first place.
The Red Sox did pretty well, but, in those days, it was always the Yankees. They won every year, always. So I guess there was a little of desires by the other people to spread the wealth around a little bit.
Sure. And not only did he win the MVP, but then he also won a Golden Glove award. And I think that was right around the time when Golden Glove was first being awarded. And it is, to read some of the articles about him, it sounds like he was so talented out there that he likely would have been awarded multiple Golden Gloves had that award been around earlier in his career as well.
Yeah, he was a great fielder and a great hitter. Yeah, again, what couldn't he do? Yep. Well, the one thing he couldn't do was fly in an airplane. And he had such bad panic attacks that he literally had to get sedatives and tranquilizers to get on the plane. and he was just miserable. It was okay in his early days playing Major League Baseball because he took the train everywhere. But or you could drive to a lot of places. But once the West Coast teams came along, he just could not face those flights. In fact, at some points in his career, he would drive himself from Boston to Cleveland, 650 miles, like overnight between games to get there in time for the game.
Wow.
Because he just couldn't bear getting on a plane. It's really sad because he finally, 2 years after getting the MVP, he announced he was retiring, even though he'd had a great season.
As I understand it, he really was unsatisfied and unhappy with just how much time he had to spend away from his family. And that led to all kinds of stress and trauma and all kinds of things.
It was basically the two issues of he was terrified to fly and he felt humiliated, he said, because he'd get off the plane and he'd be so heavily sedated that people would think he was drunk. And at the same time, he was really a family guy and he had young kids and as is still the case today, especially in baseball of all sports, you spend weeks at a time away from your family, and he really hated that as well. So he retired at the age of 32. Although, as you pointed out, he did come back and become the head coach. First at Nevada, he became the head coach, and then at Cal for 4 years in the 1970s, he was our head coach.
Right. When you take a look at the entirety of what he was able to do on the field in both football and baseball, I'm hard-pressed to think of any other athlete who went through Cal. Again, Tony Gonzalez, apologies. If we ever get you on the show, that'd be pretty sweet.
If we had Tony Gonzalez on the show, he is the greatest two-sport athlete in Cal history.
That's right. Then we will change it. Tony, if you're listening,
we're
happy to revise this. But yeah, when I look back at Jackie Jensen, when you first suggested the idea of doing a segment on him, unlike some of the other people that you've mentioned, it wasn't like, who's that person? It's like, I know Jackie Jensen, that name. All these years later, for people who are in the know and are true Golden Bear fans, that name lives on and on and on for all of what he was able to accomplish on the field. And I do feel like it's a little sad the way it all ended for him. He did die prematurely of a heart attack. He, I guess, had 2 different heart attacks at different stages in his life. It seems to have been very stress-related and related to the fact that he had an addiction to cigarettes, but very tragic that he passed away far too soon.
And he was only 55 when he died, so that's really young. Yeah, but he was a great athlete and one of Cal's all-timers.
That's absolutely true. There's no question about that. So, hey, thank you so much, Leslie, for your time today, and we look forward to another segment with you next week.
Thanks so much, and go Bears.
Go Bears.
Jackie Jensen passed away far too early, but there's no denying that his legacy as one of the greatest athletes in Cal history will live on forever. Up next on the show, I'll bring in my co-host, Ahmad Anderson, our very own Cal Hall of Famer, and together we will welcome the head coach of the Cal baseball team, Mike New. And here's an interesting bit of Cal trivia that I'm pretty sure not too many people know. Jackie Jensen and Coach New share a birthday. They were both born on March 9th. We'll get to that interview right now.
People talk about the importance of having a good head coach all the time. Case in point, Cal first started playing baseball way back in 1892, but played the first 5 seasons without a coach. Perhaps not coincidentally, they also didn't win a game until 1897, when they finally had a head coach. Fast forward all the way to July 14th, 2017, when Mike New was officially introduced as the 11th head coach of the storied Cal baseball program. Now in his 8th season, Coach New has done an excellent job navigating the challenges of a COVID-shortened season in 2020, NIL, the transfer portal, and the transition to the ACC conference to put a highly entertaining and hardworking team on the field. And we probably won't be able to get him to say as much, but last year's phenomenal team was absolutely robbed of an NCAA tournament appearance after going 36-19, finishing the season as the hottest team in baseball, winning 20 of its last 25 games. This year's team currently sits at 8-8 on the season after beating Utah at home. And we're recording this interview just before the Bears welcome Virginia to Stu Gordon for their first ACC homestand. Welcome to the show, Coach New, and a belated happy birthday.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Man, I'm really excited about it because you and I are friends and have a lot of history. So I'm excited to chat with you. But one thing that excites me is you, like I, a Bay Area guy. And so growing up in the backyard of the big schoolhouse, UC Berkeley, Cal Bears, also, you are a dynamite high school pitcher. I knew about that, but then as I read more about you, I'm like, my God, he is for real. But there's also this mystique, right? You grow up in the background in the school of the great school, and I didn't really have it on my radar. I liked the school. I went to a game or two, but I was thinking about doing so many other things than going to Cal. What made you, or when did Cal resonate on your radar?
I mean, I think when I was, young, I grew up obviously in Napa, come into Cal football games, Cal baseball games. This is where I wanted to go, and I was a little hidden, it was a little different back then recruiting, it was growing up in Napa, you're a little bit hidden out there. And plus I was an undersized right-handed pitcher, so you go watch me play and it's not like you're like, hey man, we need this short right-handed pitcher that probably doesn't look the part as much as everybody else out there. And I played shortstop. I played a position too. So I was kind of all over the field. And I definitely played with a lot of guys, Xavier Nady, Jason Dennis, Mike Tonis. We played together on teams in the summer and those guys were all going to Cal. And I'm like, man, this is where I want to go. And I just didn't get that opportunity. I actually signed to go to St. Mary's. That was where I signed to go. And the coach that recruited me had left right before I was about to go to school. And so I ended up going to Sacramento City College, which at the time was a complete powerhouse. And it was a great opportunity for me to play at a junior college and then have some other opportunities after that. And I still wanted to go to Cal. This was kind of the spot that I wanted to go. But we had a pipeline to Miami. Our coach had coached at Miami and he pretty much told me like, hey, you're going to Miami. I was like, man, can I take, another recruiting trip or, compare some things? And he was like, hey, you can if you want, but this is where you're going. And I really don't want you to miss that much practice in school. So, let's get it done. And it ended up being a great experience. I got a chance to win the College World Series there and throw the last pitch. And I still got to end up at Cal, so it worked out great. I wouldn't change anything for the world. But I mean, I've been a lifetime Cal Bear fan. Just always, this is always where I wanted to be and nowhere else I would ever want to be. I love it here.
We certainly are so happy that you are with us and that it all came around and you ended up getting to Cal after all. That's fantastic. And I wanted to ask, when did you realize you'd be a pretty good coach? And who would you say are your greatest coaching influences?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to coach. It was kind of always in the back of my mind. My dad was my coach growing up. So I had a great experience with that. And then I went to Sacramento City College and played for Jerry Weinstein, who was a legendary coach for Team USA. And he coached for major league organizations and was just an unbelievable, detailed preparation guy that was such a great influence on me. I felt like it was a big impact at that time in my life, being a college student. You're trying to kind of find your way through life and baseball and all these things. And it was a really great experience that I had there and at Miami. So even playing professional baseball, I was really trying to soak in as much as I could, not only to become a better player at the time, but also to use that as a coach one day. So even when I was playing, I was playing in the big leagues and playing in AAA and kind of stockpiling knowledge that I could use. So right when I was done playing, I basically got right into coaching, and that was what I wanted to do. So it was a little bit of, feel like an advantage for me because I was definitely invested and I wanted to play as long as I could. But I also knew that when it was done, I wanted to get right into coaching and start to get into that next step of my life. And So I think it helped me a lot, just kind of knowing what I wanted to do. And, I didn't know how it was going to shake out, but I knew that I wanted to dive in and really try to, build a program somewhere and pass on the knowledge that I had and go compete. Playing is the best way to compete, but, I still get a chance to compete every day and find ways to get better. And, as I'm an older coach now that I've been through it more, I obviously want to win. There's no doubt about that, but I also want to make an impact on these guys' lives. I want to mentor these guys. I want to build relationships with these guys. And I really want to have them be more prepared because they played in our program, to be successful when they're in their next stage of life. So as I go through it more, that is as much value to me as winning games. So I think I was like win at all costs when I first started coaching and do everything I could. And we had a lot of success and we've still had success. But the more I do it, I really want to build relationships with these guys and create a positive influence on them. And it helps you with winning too. You build trust, you build relationships. It all goes hand in hand. So that's kind of what I'm really focused on more now. And I'm always trying to get better. I definitely don't feel like I have this thing figured out. I want to get better every single day that I step into this office or step on the field. So it's just constant learning and getting better. And it's fun. I love it.
That's awesome.
I think you just gave me the sign, Coach. I'm not sure, but I think you just gave me the sign because you walked me right to the base that we're trying to go to in this conversation. We talked about you're a great baseball player in college. You have had the professional experience, and the combination now, it's a trifecta. You're a coach. What stories are you able to provide to building those relationships and preparing those guys for what life looks like if you should go on and what life looks like if you go on in another direction?
Yeah, well, baseball has a great way of humbling you and giving you a lot of adversity and keeping you pretty even because it's a difficult game when there's a lot of failure and there's a lot of things that you have to manage when you can control what you can control. And then we really leverage being at Cal. We bring in a lot of alums, a lot of former players that have had success beyond their baseball career. I got a chance to play in the big leagues. And, I think, a lot of people think, you play in the big leagues and then you retire and you go play golf every day and, live this cush life. And it's not that way. Even guys that play in the big leagues for 10 years are going to have another phase of their life. And there's no place in the country that prepares you better for that than Cal. You have an opportunity to be around a lot of really successful people, a lot of really highly motivated people. You get a chance to be in an environment where you're going to get a great education. You're going to be challenged every single day. And if you can, manage that and deal with that and provide yourself, the organizational and the preparation skills to be successful there, you're going to be prepared for the next phase. And you're going to have an unbelievable network of people that would do anything for you. And that comes from obviously in our sport with the baseball alums, but just Cal in general, so we really leverage that with our guys. We try to bring that into our program and have a lot of people speak with them and meet with them and invite them into our practices and our program. And then just, try to do everything we can with my, going back to your question, just kind of my experiences in the game. I tell guys all the time, it's like, man, I've had a lot of success, but I've had a ton of failure. Everything that you want to do, I've kind of been there in some way, but it's come with a lot of failure too. And so learning how to manage that and give them hopefully the confidence to know that things aren't going to always go your way, but this is how we're going to deal with it. This is how we're going to get better. It's a long-term process. There's no quick fix to this thing. We just got to get out there and be prepared to have a great day and get better every day. And that's on and off the field. So those are some of the things we kind of incorporate into the program. And like I said, I'm always trying to get better and learn new ways to do it and pass it on to these guys.
Well, yeah, you can definitely see it in the culture that you've built there. Absolutely. With the Cal baseball program. And that's a reflection of you as the coach, the way that they see that you approach life and winning each game, right? There's the preparation that's involved, and there's the understanding that, sure, it's not always going to go your way, and you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to fail from time to time. But the only way to experience success is to go through that failure and have that resilience to bounce back. And that brings me to this year's team where, I've noticed they have this dogged determination about them, and they don't give up. And in talking about this year's team, what would you say are some of the strengths of this year's team that you see?
Yeah, this has actually been one of the most fun teams that I've coached because we have 22 new players. We lost a lot of guys to the draft. The transfer portal world is definitely a whole new wrinkle that comes into play, but we have not a lot of experience. We're a very inexperienced team, but it's also a great challenge because we're able to really teach every day and we're really able to learn and try to find ways to get better. Even our pregame to us is practice. We're like, hey man, pregame preparation, this is a practice day. This is a work day. This is an opportunity for us to get better before the game even starts. And we need it because we just don't have the experience that we've had on some of the teams in the past. But it's also great because our group of guys is so hardworking. They put in so much time. They're really competitive. They're really coachable. I think it's a great compliment to, see that as a coach, hey, these guys are guys that really have a toughness about them. They have a kind of an inner strength and they work really hard. And they're also, really respectful and understand that, hey, it's not, this isn't all about me. This is about the team. This is about the program. This is about the alums, and we really want to hammer that home. So it's been kind of fun. I mean, we're 8-8 right now. And, we'd obviously love to have a better record, but I feel like we're really, in a great direction. And it's just fun to be out on the field every day. I just look forward to going out here and finding ways to get better. And our guys have been so receptive. And that's really cool to see. You see some toughness, and we're going to have some breakthroughs, this year. We're playing some really good teams. The ACC is tough. But it's exciting to go out there. We go out to Duke in our first series and play as well as we can play on Friday and get the win. And then we're right in there, Saturday and Sunday late in the game. And we just haven't gotten over the hump of how to win those games yet because we're not quite there with some of the experience, but we're going to get there. And it's exciting to just go out there every day, especially when you have a lot of guys that you just love being around.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about the team. You're speaking to the travel as well, which is an adjustment. Share with us a little bit about that transition to the ACC. I know, and traveling in what we traveled in was one thing. Traveling that way in the season that you all have, I can't even imagine. I mean, I travel for business, but I don't have to get up and play. I can get up and sit at a desk. So tell me what that's like and how you have been able to manage through that and persevere.
Yeah, we're still learning. We've gone on one trip. I think kind of the plan was we're going to leave a day earlier. So typically we leave on a Thursday for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. We are leaving on Wednesday now to give us one more day to get acclimated and to get a little workout in and kind of have a full day before we play. I think that worked out really well on the first trip. We played more home and local series to try to navigate that a little bit better. That's kind of the trade-off. If we're going to leave a day early, we got to play a little bit more at home and a little bit more local with our non-conference series, which we've done. And then, hey, I mean, school can be challenging here too. So we have to kind of, figure out how that's going to work for each guy individually. But it's a longer trip. There's no doubt about it. It's, you lose. We had a chance to win the series at Duke on Sunday, and I think we're tied in the 7th inning. And, we end up losing a tough game where we just don't play as well as we would love to play in those last couple innings. And then instead of having an hour flight back from LA, you got a 5.5 hour flight back from North Carolina. And that doesn't feel great. But those have been kind of the differences. It's just the length of the travel, the preparation. We're obviously trying to navigate their sleep a little bit too. When we get them up in the morning, get them out in the sunlight and try to get them acclimated to the time change. We had a double time change because we had daylight savings from Saturday to Sunday night. So we played an 11:30 a.m. game on Sunday, which on Pacific time was basically a 7:30 a.m. game. So hey, it's no excuse. You just got to go out there and figure out how to do it. But we're trying to manage it the best we can for our guys, and our guys have done a great job. I mean, they've been so good as far as just being responsive to what's like, all right, we got to get to bed early tonight. We got to get our sleep. We got to get up. We got to see the sunlight. We got to stay hydrated. We got to move our bodies when we need to move them to try to stay on our clock. And you just do the best you can. It's not ideal, but it's also a great challenge. And I think the positive is we get to see some different places in the country. And we got a chance to go play at Duke and play in North Carolina and, see a program that's been really successful and be in a different part of the country. And man, it feels so bad, it rips your heart out when you win on Friday and you can't win on Saturday or Sunday to win the series. It kind of rips your heart out from a competitive standpoint. But, from an overall standpoint, it was such a cool experience for our players, to be able to have that trip, play in that environment. We worked at a USA baseball facility in Cary, North Carolina on Wednesday night, which was really cool. And we had some really fun things we were able to do as a team. So, you just try to, make the most of those opportunities and see what you can do to continue to develop the team and get them closer and experience some new things. So that's kind of the perspective that we're taking.
Well, like our former head trainer used to say, Bob Orr, he said, "That's ball, baby."
Yep. That's right. You just gotta figure it out as you go a little bit and not overthink it. I think that's one of the challenges too. It's like, hey, we got a lot of things we're teaching these young guys and new guys, and it's like, you get out there, man, just go play unconscious, and hey, there's going to be mistakes in this game. It's an imperfect game. So let's be comfortable with not being comfortable. And I think we're getting better at that, which is good.
That's good. And just a little follow-up on that, do you guys charter or no? I mean,
we don't. No,
Yeah.
we're just trying to find direct flights. I think we got all direct flights except for to Louisville, Kentucky. So we'll have some connectors going there, which will be a little bit of a tough one. But yeah, you got the 6'6" guys. We got all these big dudes on the plane. You got them a middle seat on a 5.5 hour flight. So you're trying to work that around a little bit, and it's yeah, there's some challenges there, but yeah, I wish we were able to try. That would be huge, obviously if you could do that, it softens the blow a little bit, but we're in the airport, grinding it out. So that's all right though. We're
until they have the little kid kicking you in the back. And like,
right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Matt,
yeah.
I mean, today is Big Give when we're recording this. So we need some deep pocketed Cal alum to step up and
let's go.
Get these young men a chartered flight from place to place. If we want to let's go. Let's make that happen.
Hey, nobody on our team will be upset with that. I can say that for
that's
sure.
right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, just wondered, now that you've been the head coach at Cal for 8 seasons, what would you say are some of your highlight moments as a coach of the Cal Bears?
Yeah, I mean, just getting the job at Cal, I mean, even as an assistant, but for sure as a head coach is a dream come true, just to be a part of this program and this university and be able to put on this uniform every day is just, I'm super grateful for that. And just getting those opportunities are things that stick in my mind. But then we had Andrew Vaughn win the Golden Spikes Award. I mean, it's basically the Heisman Trophy for college baseball, and see some of those individual accomplishments. And then the team ones, we got a chance to play at Texas A&M in a regional, and see that environment. And I think the best thing as a coach is anytime you see your guys playing in the most high leverage games and you really don't have to coach them anymore. You can almost just sit back and watch them play because they're just playing at such a high level that it's like, all right, man, I don't have a lot of things I have to manage at this point. These guys know what to do. Now we just have to make some moves that are correct based on what we're prepared for. But, we've had some of those great moments. And last year was one of them. I mean, we won, like you guys mentioned, we won 20 of our last 25 games. We're playing in the conference tournament with the chance to win the tournament. And our guys are just playing at an unconscious level of baseball, so motivated. And it's just fun to be a part of that because you just say like, man, these guys put in the work. Hopefully we've done the best we can do as coaches to prepare them. And then, just you guys go out and just go play, man. Just go do what you do and have fun and enjoy the challenge. And, we swept Oregon State at home last year, which was one of the top teams in the country, and get a chance to go to the tournament like I talked about before and beat Arizona and go on to that semifinal game and have a lead really going into it. I mean, you look back like, man, maybe we beat USC that last game because we beat them on the road 2 out of 3 this year. We swept UCLA at home. So there's so many of those moments. Like, quick story, I mean, Jim Darby, who's an alum here, and he does our play-by-play on radio. We swept UCLA 2 years ago on the road. And then this year we played him, and it's our last conference game against UCLA. Maybe the last time we play him, hopefully not, but you don't know at this point. And Darbs comes up to me the day before we play him, and he's like, "Hey, Mike, do you know what the overall record is between Cal and UCLA baseball over 100 years of history. And I was like, no, Darbs, I don't know what it is, and it was like 188 to 185. They had a 2-game lead on us, so 188 to 186, something like that. He's like, so Mike, all you got to do is sweep them to have the all-time lead against UCLA, all-time history. And I'm like thinking like, all right, Darbs, all we got to do is sweep UCLA, for the second year in a row, by the way. And UCLA's been great. They have a great program. And we win the first game. We win the second game to tie the series, and we hit a walk-off homer. Caleb Lomavita, who won the first round of the Washington National, hit his walk-off homer on Sunday for us to sweep them. So as we stand, we have an all-time lead by 1 game against UCLA in the series. And just those are some kind of cool historical moments, and they're great in the moment for our guys. But it's just like all those things start, when I think about how I've been here and see these things. But it's just fun to see these guys play at that level. And then you get to see some really cool things individually come from that too.
And that's awesome. Go Bears, baby. I love that. That's some pretty darn good highlights there.
Yeah, it's fun, especially the way it all shook out with the conferences too. Makes it a little more special,
Absolutely. You've been at Cal for quite some time now, between being the pitching coach and now being the head coach in your 8th season. You've seen some changes, of course, in that time. And in what ways would you like to see Cal athletics improve?
Well, I think it's tough because we're obviously in a little of an individual situation too. I got here the year after the program was cut and then was reinstated. So, 2011 summer is when I got here. And then the 2012 season was my first season. So you got to kind of see the program revived and then really self-funded for a good amount of time. We still have a good amount of fundraising that we have to do. And the challenge now is with NIL, with transfer portal, with revenue sharing coming up, with the roster changes. The SEC and the ACC in baseball have really been kind of the forefront of really trying to be great at this level of baseball when it comes to facilities, when it comes to NIL, when it comes to development and all these things. And we're obviously working hard to just keep the program here and to continue to fundraise for the things we need. For me, my biggest thing is like, let's just stay in shouting distance of those schools. We just got to find ways when it comes to these new rules and new things to have enough money scholarship wise, to have enough things facility wise to stay in shouting range. We're going to have to scratch and claw our way a little bit more than some of these teams that have a lot of things. But I feel confident that if we can kind of stay in range, we're going to find the talent. We're going to develop the talent to be successful and be competitive. And then on the right years when we get it clicking, to have the chance to go to Omaha and win it all. And I really thought we were close last year. I mean, we were right there. And it's never going to be, super easy for us, but I don't think it's easy for anybody, and everybody has their challenges, so you never think that, if as soon as I think you start kind of transferring blame or complaining or pointing fingers, then you're in a bad spot. So as long as we're in, shouting distance and we're in range, we're going to be successful, competitive, and at the right years, we're going to be able to strike and really be able to put together a great team. And that's what I've talked about before a little bit too, just making sure we have these guys coming out of here ready to go and be great alums and successful individuals and family members when they leave our program. So you want to be able to create a platform for them to be successful here too. And that's what we want to do. And those are our goals. And then we'll fight from scratch and claw from there. And we're ready for that. I wouldn't have taken this job if I didn't think I was prepared for that. So I love that part of it. I've always been an underdog kind of my whole life with the way I've had to go through things. So, that's nothing new to me. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have to do that.
All right. So it's not lost on me that Bay Area sports, especially here in the East Bay, is looking pretty bleak, at least professionally speaking. The A's now have bailed. What would you say to the greater East Bay community about why they should come out and support Cal baseball?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's an opportunity for us to create a fan base of some fans that have been in the Bay Area. The East Bay is such a great baseball area. the product we put on the field is exciting. I mean, you can just look at the history overall with Cal baseball and even the recent history and the guys we have now. I mean, we've had so many high round draft picks, guys that have played for Team USA, competitive teams that are fun to watch. I think anybody that comes out to Cal and sees the environment, they're like, man, this is kind of a hidden gem. This is a really cool place to be able to watch a game, see some great talent on the field with Cal uniforms on. And then even the teams we're playing are so great. So I think it's definitely an opportunity for us to build our fan base, to be able to create a better environment, which we've had some great opportunities. I mean, you see some of these games we play and we've had, you got the beer garden out there, you got the concessions, you got an environment that's a home field advantage for us. And it's not the most comfortable place to play for an opposing team. You're kind of right in the middle of campus. You got the setup that's condensed in there and you got the fans on top of you.
Yeah.
And, we get 2,500 people at a game and it feels like 10,000 and you're right down there with the players. You get to see them all really up close. Every seat's a great seat. So it is a really cool opportunity for us. And I definitely have seen us over the years get some unbelievable crowds where it's just a cool environment. It's one of the coolest baseball environments, I think, in the entire country. I mean, we'd love to have some stadium upgrades to make it a little more comfortable for the fans and things like that with some of the seating and things, because we are looking at like a 92-year-old stadium, but it's also one of the cool things about it. It's just the history. Kind of think of ourselves as like the Chicago Cubs of college baseball, where we have the most history, some of the oldest stuff, but it's also what makes it really cool. So I think anybody that comes out to watch a game is going to be shocked at how cool it is. And the talent you're going to see is high level. It's really fun.
The very first time I went to a Cal game as a student, I couldn't believe it. You talk about how every seat is a great seat. And I walked in and I just got right behind home plate. And we had a slugger by the name of Troy Penix, who's one of the greatest home run hitters in Cal baseball history. And I kid you not, the second pitch he had, bam, he just slammed it. The sound of that home run crack standing there right behind him, basically, as that happened, was just incredible. So yeah, East Bay community, you should get out and get to a Cal baseball game because you can get real close and right up and personal with all of them.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you long, but I do want to give a shout out. I'm an 80s guy. So, I was around with Coach Milano. But the 1980 team, Brian Gwynn and I grew up together. I played football with Michael Buds, Rod, Lyle, and my guy, Dan McInerney. That was a slugger as well. So I just want to shout out those guys and Big Zeno as well. But I have to say to you, it's always a joy for me to know guys who come here, who coached here, and I know their lives and you've evolved. But one of the things we talk about is that Bear Territory moment. Whether it was when you were a student, whether it was before you became a student, when you became a player, and then you became a coach, or any moment in your life you felt like it was a Bear Territory moment. And like many folks like yourselves, they come on there and go like, God, this laundry list, what are you trying to do to me? Anything works for us because it resonates not only with your staff, not only with your team, but the entire Bear Territory around the world. Share with us what that might be. Dig into that bag.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I think it does go. I mean, there just when you do have the support at some of the games, I mean, I think about some of those games when we played Oregon State and we swept them at home, or even as an assistant coach, I remember playing Oregon here one year and we had an unbelievable crowd at the game. We got people talking trash behind their dugout. You're like, man, this feels like a home field advantage because we just got lights in like 2013. We were really the Chicago Cubs back then before we had lights. So we played one of our first night games and you have those fans. And I even think to like the Miami football game this year where you're in that environment and you're just like, man, it is just like cool to just be a part of the Cal family and see how many people are supporting it. And how many people are out here. And we definitely have that grinder mentality, knowing that like, hey, this is blue collar and we are about to find a way to do something really special. And that's the coolest part about being a Cal Bear is just knowing that you have so many people with that same mindset, and there's so many people that support and would do anything for anybody in this program. And you just see it every day and every time you go to an event, and it's just really cool to be a part of. And it just makes you feel like you're part of a family that's just different than everybody else, and I think it's the reason, it's what we use in recruiting the most, as much as anything. And hopefully when, like you guys said, that's the biggest compliment I can get, is when team, if anybody sees our team play, they want to see, that confidence, that competitiveness, that family environment where everybody's playing for each other, and there's no individuals out there. And I think that's what we really represent. And you see that at a lot of these games and in the fan base. And it's just a really exciting thing to be a part of. So hopefully we just keep that rolling and get a bunch of them out here. Now the weather, hopefully after this weekend, the weather gets good, because that's when we get it kind of rocking out at Dew Gordon Stadium, as we get that weather going good on the weekends, and the environment is fun. I mean, it's really fun to be a part of.
Well, hey, Coach, we really couldn't be more appreciative and thankful to you for making the time today. And, thank you for bringing all of this excitement. And the entire Cal community is on the verge of just jumping out of their seats and waiting for something. And you have got that team ready to just rock and roll. And couldn't be more impressed with the job that you've done. And, Coach Peter Wright said it in our last episode that it's probably the most challenging time of all right now to be a coach, with all the different things that you're navigating. And you have done a sensational job navigating the team through all of these uncharted waters. And we couldn't thank you enough for being a Golden Bear. And thank you for making the time on the show today.
Thank you, guys. I had a blast. Yeah, that was fun. It's always fun talk. We could talk for probably 2 hours. And so it was cool. I love it.
We'll have you back, Coach, for sure.
I'm in for sure.
And good luck the rest of the way here. Hopefully see you this weekend when you guys take on Virginia. So
sounds good. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, go Bears.
Go Bears.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome.
We could have talked to Coach New for hours. Such a great guest. He really has a firm grasp of what it takes to succeed as a head coach at Cal, and we're very lucky to have him at the helm of our baseball program. That's going to do it for this week's episode. This podcast is entirely a labor of love, and we've never had any sponsorship. All of the time and energy that we put into it is simply a reflection of how much we love our university. If you're enjoying these podcasts, I'd like to challenge each of you out there to email 5 of your closest Cal fan friends and send them a link to tellthewholedamnworld.com. We've updated our website to make it easier than ever for people to figure out how to stream our episodes or watch on YouTube. You can also follow us on X, better known as Twitter, under Win4Cal. That's Win, the number 4, Cal. The more viewers and listeners we have, the easier it will be for other Cal fans to find us. I say it all the time, but we sincerely appreciate all of you out there listening and watching. Be on the lookout for our next episode when it's released next Monday. We've got a pretty good one lined up. If you're as much of a Golden Bear as I am, I promise you won't go away disappointed. And lastly, it's been a good run, but I'm finally retiring the Doctor Who quote we've always referenced to end the show, and have a new and improved way to end the show. See you next week. This podcast is about celebrating all things Cal and the prominent people who are passionate about the University of California. Do you feel Cal is the center of the universe? Do you bleed blue and gold? We want you to tell the whole damn world about it. Go Bears!